Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Hover Ambulance of the first Run Addendum Hover Vehicles series. My name is Wimperman, and I'm the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and Chief Dumbass of the Hover Ambulance project. So, it's a bit RP, and it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but I always had the idea of doing ambulances, ambuli, what's the plural, since they added all the medical equipment. Now it's taken me this long to get to an ambulance type vehicle just because of doing other stuff in the game, updating old builds and such, but I finally got round to doing it. Now, just in case it offends anyone, especially from America, because I've painted this one in the European colour scheme, I'm planning to do all ambulance hover vehicles like this, but ambulance SVs I'm planning to do in a red and white, more American scheme. So do hold on to your knickers, Kai. Anyway, right, so before I take you through the features of this ambulance, I will first take you through the original vehicle. Now, the original vehicle is an updated refit as part of the first Run Hover Vehicles series, and this is the first Run Hover Vehicles 8, I believe, Hover Camper 8, yeah. Now, this vehicle in the tour, I kind of show you how to enclose it to make it airtight. It is open to the elements as it comes, and it's only tier 1. But when you upgrade it to tier 2 and you enclose it, you get a vehicle that's closer to this. So I basically went through the upgrade process in order to build that. Now, as you can see, there are some differences. For example, it made very little sense for an ambulance to have a turret on it, and I also needed somewhere to put the emergency lights. I've actually gone through the bother of putting emergency beacons on it. Of course I have. I'm me, don't forget. Obviously, doors are in place, and any missing windows are also in. A couple of them, like there and there, I have doubled up on so that they look more opaque. That's the right word. Because there would be patients behind those windows, or patients, air quotes, role play kind of thing. Right, so let's take you through its role and task equipment. I mean, do I need to take you through the role? I mean, for RP, it's an ambulance. It's meant to go to a casualty, maybe heal them, maybe transport them to a hospital, air quotes. But doesn't really translate into the game, but it is, like I said, it's tongue-in-cheek RP-ish. Now, the equipment it uses to facilitate that task, I mean, I suppose you could include the thrusters in that, because it would need to get to the patient and then transport them back, so it would need thrusters to do that, but I will cover the thrusters in the propulsion bit. But on the inside we have a clone chamber and a medic station. Now, on the original camper, the clone chamber is already in place, and there is a spot for the medic station, so even the camper would become equipped like this. Yeah, so other than that, that's really it. Now let's go through its propulsion and its lift capacity. Right then, so it has 2 large tier 2 thrusters in all directions, forward, reverse and lateral. It has no RCSs, and it only has 4 of the small hover engines to help keep it up, and it has 2 jump boosters. Now those 4 hover engines give it the lift capacity of 81.6 tons in 1G. That halves to 40.8 tons in 2Gs and halves again to 20.4 tons in 4Gs. Now the vehicle itself weighs 13.1 tons. Now I'm not entirely sure how the game actually calculates this. Do I factor in that it can lift 20.4 tons in 4G and the vehicle is 13.1, so it can lift another give or take 7 tons? Or is it that it can lift 81.6 tons, but in 4G this vehicle weighs, maths, 52 tons? Or does it do, it can lift 20.4, but in 4G this thing weighs 52? I mean, I just don't know. I don't know how that works. So do bear in mind that it's possible this doesn't work on a 4G world. It's also possible that it does and it can lift another 7 tons. I honestly don't really know. Without trying it, and you know me, I'm too lazy to do that. Right then, next we shall move on to... Did you just hear my bit of paper that I've written stuff down on? Don't look behind the curtain too hard. You'll find out all my secrets. Next we'll move on to power, fuel and air. So its power generation is a single large generator. Now I have moved it around and it seems to be fine. Oh, I haven't tested it with the constructor going, but I think it'll be fine. Let's just do a quick bit of maths. So large tier 2s. See, that's only 80 power units in. 80 times 8. Yeah, that's only 640 power units. So driving around, I mean, even driving around you won't be using all 8. I mean, at the most you'll be using 4, depending on which direction you're strafing. So yeah, I think you'll be alright. Do you know what? I might have been able to get away with a small generator, but never mind. Fuel, well, since I'm down here, as you can see, 6 large fuel tanks. Now, what I did here, as you can see, there is an upgrade slot on the original hover camper to change the small generator into a large one, and then there is slots for 2 large fuel tanks as well. And then I took up the 2 extra upgrade slots for the front hover engines to get 2 more large, and then I decided it didn't need the harvester module, so I took that off and I put 2 more fuel tanks there. Of course they would have then been exposed, so I gave it a nice big chunky bumper. You know, there you go. Now air, it is fully airtight, and I will prove that now. I did have a little bit of trouble because originally I did put on 8 hover engines, including one there and there, but unfortunately air was escaping through the clone chamber and out the bottom through the inboard hover engine here. But never mind, otherwise it would have been able to lift more, but you know, it's an ambulance, not a cargo lifter. But there you go, as you can see, she's fully airtight. Now she does have 3 oxygen tanks in there, and as you can see, an oxygen station. Right, next let's move on to weapons, defences and construction. Well, as I touched on earlier when I was talking about the camper, she's not armed and she's not shielded either, so that's the weapons and the defences out the way. Construction. So the bodywork is mostly steel, but it's the thin wall panel shaped blocks I've used, although there are a couple of places where I've had to use bigger blocks, but still. Now, the floor inside and out here is also carbon composite, but they don't really protect anything. So, yeah, I was okay with that. Now, I suppose you could technically consider this armor, but I still consider it as body panels, but they are steel as well. Next then, let's talk about its resource gathering, production and storage. Well, it has no resource gathering because I took the harvester module off the camper and that was the only bit on there that does that job. Its production, it does still have the same constructor as in the camper van in the same place. And its storage, so it has a large cargo box that the constructor feeds into and takes out of. It has an 1125 SU cargo container in the floor, which you saw was visible underneath. Oh, wrong button. And then it has another another two large cargo boxes, a small cargo box in the cab, and a mini fridge. Again, the mini fridge is the same one that's in the camper van, so I haven't moved anything around. Right then, next we will go inside and have a look at its interior layout and the remaining devices. So as you can see, there's plenty of ways in, and they're all the same ways in as the hover camper over here. And I thought the hover camper made actually a really good ambulance because of that reason. You can park this near, air quotes obviously, near to an accident, near to a casualty, and you've always got a way out in all directions to go deal with them. This platform here is actually bigger than this one, because I figured you would need RP bullshit again. You would need room to get up that slope and in through that door with a stretcher. This slope is bigger for the same reason, so it's, you know, a lesser gradient slope. Here is the same. Right, let's take you in. Actually, let's go in the back door and we'll end up in the cab. So this is one area where, air quotes RP, you could bring a stretcher in and work on a patient in here. There is also room for a stretcher, air quotes, and a patient bed, which is actually the same bed as the hover camper. So I call this the rear compartment, and then the cab is here. Right, devices wise, yeah, we'll start in the cab since we're here. So that's where the small cargo box in the cab is. There's obviously a ventilator, the two projectors for the LCD HUD work there that shows you which key bindings turn on and off which things. There is a couple of lights in here that can be turned on with that lever. Before we go back to look at some of the other stuff, I will just point out real quick that when you're going into the cab from these side doors, you now can't get to the rear compartment. Oh. Was it because I was on a slope? Because I tried it earlier on and I couldn't get... Maybe it's just the driver's seat? Yeah, okay. I must have been parked on a slope. Okay, so if you're parked on a slope, just beware that you can't... Oh, see, you can't get... Oh, ooh, okay. It picks and chooses when it will and won't. Breathe in! No, see, I can't do it at all. I did, however, figure out that I can get into the seat and back out, and it will put me behind it, but To be honest, the side doors into the cab are there for when you're outside the vehicle wanting to go into the cab. I mean, if you're outside the vehicle and you want to go into the rear compartment, why would you go in through the cab doors when there are plenty of doors going into the rear compartment? Anyway, blah blah blah. There's the core. There's the T2 extender. There's a lever for that light. There's one of the large cargo boxes, and as you saw on the camper van, there are the 3 oxygen tanks there. Oh, I will also point out that all of the doors coming out of the rear compartment have all got a lever and an external light. So moving back, O2 station, there's the container we saw from the bottom. We do have an armor locker, just in case you need to swap out any boosts. There is also... oh, missed. There is also lights in the back as well. There's the constructor. That's the cargo box it feeds into and takes out of. Mini fridge is in the bottom corner there. There is another large cargo box, sort of for meds, I suppose. In fact, all of these kind of are, being an ambulance. Right, there are a few other things on the outside. It has 2 tail lights, as usual with my vehicles. 2 headlights. It has plenty of ambulance livery. I'm very sorry. I am going to be that guy, although that's moved. Why is that moved? See, it's not... Give me a sec, but anyway, yeah, I am going to be that guy, and I am going to say, I got a rod of Asclepius. Right. I'm pretty sure they are exactly the same from side to side. What's the problem? It's the same sign, so why? Okay, I'm going to try and fix that. I didn't notice that. It's going to be another update to the workshop. It does have a whole bunch of docking pads, and other than the detector up there and the Wi-Fi that you probably saw earlier anyway under there, and the emergency beacons I will show you in a bit, that is all of the devices. The idea of this platform, by the way, is so that the paramedics can work on a patient to stabilize them before they take them in to transport them. Or maybe it could be something where a patient doesn't need to be taken, so they can do it here and the patient can then be on their way, you know. RP, air quotes, bollocks. Right then, so now let's talk about its shortcuts and its signals. So as usual, the first device group shortcut is the propulsion etc. that turns on or off all of the thrusters, all of the hover engines. Oh, that's it, because it has no RCSs. Here you go then. I know you were waiting for it. Yeah. Nee fucking nah, bitches. Nee fucking nah. Should we make it night? Okay, so there's that. Let's turn them off and then make it unnight. I didn't see what was that about there. Then of course headlights and the tail lights and the ventilators. Now I include one for the ventilators. I have said this in other tour videos, but just in case you haven't seen them. You can obviously turn the oxygen off with the oxygen switch under general, which you would do if you are in a breathable atmosphere. But that actually just sucks in all of the oxygen through the ventilators. It doesn't turn the ventilators off, so they are still receiving power even when you don't need them. So I put a little switch to turn them off. If we have a look at the power left, it does make a bit of a difference. It's not massive, but might as well save fuel. Okay. Power save, as usual, I include the power save as the first custom signal. Doesn't really do much on this one. It turns off all of the liveries and the LCDs in here. It turns off the Wi-Fi, and it turns off all of the livery, unless I have missed some. Follow, power save. Yeah, nope, I haven't. That's all it really does, because everything else is turned on and off by other methods. Now the mini fridge itself, I should have said earlier, does come turned off by default, and it isn't actually part of the power save group, because you want to keep your food fresh in that fridge, even if you want to save power with other stuff. So when you've parked up, if you still need the fridge on, power save won't turn it off. So interior lights and exterior lights. So the ones on the inside of the cab and the rear cabin, the rear compartment even, and all the ones under here are all controlled by these. So you can use either method to turn them on, depending on how much light you actually require and how much you can be bothered to flick the switches. Production, that's the last thing. Obviously it's the constructor, turns that on and off. Right, the last thing to talk about is its CPU and upgrading. So it is a tier 2 CPU, and there is a lot of CPU left over to play with. It's just over half, but there isn't really much room to upgrade. Now, I should clarify that I consider modification and personalization something different from upgrading. An upgrade is a intended path that the designer has set out for you, where, for example, they've given you a spot to put a shield generator and a spot to put a warp drive and a spot to put more power generators, and you know, there's actually slots available for the next tier up in CPU extenders, that kind of stuff. Modification and personalization obviously can be done at any point with any vehicle. If you want to turn this into something else, you can move stuff around, obviously, but there isn't actually any designated points where you can put extra stuff. So I haven't given you anywhere to put extra fuel or extra O2, for example. Still, you know, I mean, you could, if you have too much storage in here, maybe take that out. That, by the way, in case anyone cares, is the where the wireless and the ammo box is for the camper. That's what it swapped to. Aye. Right, yeah, so that's everything I need to talk about. So I'm going to have a fiddle with my rod of Asclepius and try and figure out why it works on one side and not on the other, despite the fact that it was just a copy and paste. And I will call that the end of the tour. So thank you very much for taking an interest in my HoverAmbulance. I hope you get some enjoyment out of it at least, and hopefully I'll see you in a different video for another build. So thank you again, and goodbye.